I lie in bed, unable to sleep. The clock reads 1:15 a.m., and the house is silent except for the faint murmur of my wife, Emma, talking on the phone in the next room. I can't make out the words, but her tone is soft, almost whispering. My curiosity is piqued. I sit up, straining to hear more clearly. Emma and I have been married for 10 years. I'm Jack, a mid-level manager at a tech firm. Life has been routine. We have no kids, which sometimes makes the house feel too quiet, like now. We've grown distant over the years. We still have dinners together, exchange pleasantries, and maintain a semblance of normalcy. But something has been off lately. I just can't put my finger on it. I slip out of bed and tiptoe to the door, peeking through the small gap. Emma is sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, phone pressed to her ear. She laughs softly, a sound I haven't heard in months. My heart tightens. I couldn't resist. He has a big, dark Johnson, she says, her voice low and breathy. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I feel sick. My mind races. Who is she talking about? What does this mean for us? I feel a mix of rage and devastation. My wife, the woman I've loved for so long, is talking about another man. I step back, breathing heavily. I need to confront her, but not now. I need proof, something tangible. I return to bed, lying there, staring at the ceiling, my mind whirling with thoughts of betrayal and revenge. I hardly sleep. Morning comes too quickly. I hear Emma in the kitchen, making coffee. I force myself to get up and join her. She looks up, smiling, but there's a flicker of something in her eyes. Guilt? Fear? I can't be sure. Morning, she says brightly. Morning, I reply, keeping my voice steady. Sleep well? Yeah, you? Not really, I say, watching her closely. Heard you on the phone last night. Her face pales and she looks away. Oh, just talking to a friend, she says, but her voice wavers. A friend? I ask, my anger rising. Who is he, Emma? She flinches. Jack, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I demand. I heard what you said. She bites her lip, tears welling in her eyes. It's Greg, she finally admits. A colleague. It just happened, Jack. I didn't mean for it to. Didn't mean for it to? I echo, my voice cold. You betrayed me, Emma. Tears spill down her cheeks and she reaches for my hand, but I pull away. I love you, Jack, she sobs. Please, we can work through this. I shake my head, the pain and anger overwhelming me. I need time to think, I say, turning away from her. As I leave the house, the weight of her betrayal crushes me. Everything seems ordinary, but my life has been turned upside down. I have to figure out what to do next, but one thing is certain. Nothing will ever be the same again. The next morning, I wake up with a plan. Last night's shock has morphed into a cold resolve. I need proof of Emma's affair before I can decide my next move. I know confronting Greg without evidence will lead nowhere. My mind races with possibilities. I tell Emma I need space and head to work. But instead of going to the office, I park my car a few blocks away from her office building. I watch as employees file in, waiting for a glimpse of her. I feel like a stalker, but I need to know. Finally, I see her. She's walking with a tall, well-built man, Greg. My blood boils as they exchange a lingering glance before parting ways at the door. I follow Greg. He's confident, arrogant even, as he strides into a nearby cafe. I sit a few tables away, pretending to read the newspaper. He's on his phone, smiling at something. Probably texting Emma. My hands clench into fists under the table. Later, I drive to a spy shop. The clerk, a scruffy guy with an unkempt beard, sells me a small, high-quality camera and a few recording devices. He explains how to use them, and I listen carefully. I feel a strange sense of exhilaration, like I'm a character in one of those crime novels I love to read. That night, I install the camera in our bedroom. It's hidden among the books on the shelf. I set up the recording device under the bed, ensuring it's well concealed. Emma is out with friends, or so she says. I wonder if she's really with Greg. My stomach churns at the thought, but I push it aside. I need to stay focused. Over the next few days, I gather evidence. The camera captures several incriminating phone calls between Emma and Greg. Their conversations are filled with lustful promises and whispered secrets. The recordings are even more damning. They talk about their plans to run away together, how they'll start a new life. Every word fuels my anger and determination. One night, Emma tells me she's going out with friends again. I follow her, staying a safe distance behind. She meets Greg at a hotel. I snap pictures of them entering the room together, my heart pounding in my chest. The betrayal stings like a fresh wound. I confront Emma the next morning, laying out the evidence in front of her. Photos, recordings, everything. Her face turns ashen, and she collapses into a chair, sobbing. "Jack, please, I'm so sorry," she pleads, her voice breaking. "It was a mistake. I love you." "Love?" I scoff, my voice cold. "You don't know the meaning of the word." "Please, give me another chance," she begs, reaching for my hand. I pull away, my anger rising. "You think you can just say sorry, and it will all go away? You've destroyed everything, Emma." She's crying uncontrollably now, her tears falling onto the evidence spread out on the table. "I'll do anything, Jack. Just please, don't leave me." I look at her, my heart hardening. It's too late for that. I'm filing for divorce. Emma's sobs turn into wails, and I leave the house, slamming the door behind me. My mind is a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, and a twisted sense of satisfaction. But I know this isn't over. Not yet. I hire a private investigator to dig into Greg's life. I need more than just proof of the affair. I want to destroy him. The investigator, a grizzled veteran named Sam, takes the job without asking too many questions. He's thorough, efficient, and discreet. A week later, Sam hands me a folder. Inside, I find details of Greg's financial misdeeds, embezzlement, fraud, you name it. He's been skimming money from the company for years. I feel a dark thrill as I realize I have everything I need to bring him down. I anonymously tip off Greg's boss and the police. The fallout is immediate. Greg is arrested, his smug face plastered across the news. Emma is devastated, her world collapsing around her. I watch from the shadows, satisfied yet empty. Emma begs me to help her. "Jack, please, we can fix this," she cries, clutching my arm. I shake her off, my voice icy. "You made your bed, Emma. Now lie in it." The police start to question me, sensing my involvement but lacking proof. I play the part of the wronged husband perfectly, but the tension is mounting. I know I need to disappear before they find a way to pin everything on me. I liquidate my assets, withdrawing all the cash I can. I create a new identity, complete with a new passport. I'm almost ready to vanish, but there's one last thing I need to do. I set up a meeting with Emma and Greg. They think it's to discuss a settlement. I choose a secluded spot, ensuring there will be no witnesses. As they arrive, I can see the fear in their eyes. They know they're cornered. "Jack, please," Emma starts, but I cut her off. "This isn't about forgiveness," I say, my voice calm and cold. "This is about making sure you both pay for what you've done." I show them the evidence of Greg's crimes, the recordings, the photos. Their faces turn pale, and I relish their fear. "You're going to confess to everything," I continue, "or I'll make sure the police find out just how deep your betrayal goes." Greg tries to protest, but I silence him with a glare. "You think you're smart, Greg? You think you can outsmart me? You're wrong." They have no choice but to comply. I leave them there, broken and defeated, knowing their lives are over. I feel a twisted sense of satisfaction, but also a deep emptiness. Revenge is a hollow victory. I board a plane under my new identity, leaving everything behind. As the plane takes off, I look out the window, a mix of relief and sorrow washing over me. I've won, but at what cost? Months pass. I start a new life in a new city. I try to move on, but the past lingers like a dark shadow. One day, I see a news report. Emma and Greg's bodies have been found in a remote location, victims of a brutal crime. The news shocks me, and I feel an unexpected pang of guilt. I realize that my need for revenge has set off a chain of events I couldn't control. I grapple with the moral implications of my actions, haunted by the dark path I've taken. I decide to start over, to build a life free of deceit and betrayal. I resolve to be a better man, even as the shadows of my past linger. As I walk through the bustling streets of my new city, I blend into the crowd, just another face among many. I am free, but the weight of my actions will always be with me. Yet, I look forward, not back, ready to embrace whatever comes next. The morning after confronting Emma, I wake with a heavy heart, but a clear mind. I have the proof of her affair, but now I need to take the next steps carefully. Revenge drives me, but I must be smart about it. Emma is in the kitchen, silent and pale, as I prepare for work. At the office, I sit at my desk, staring at my computer screen. My thoughts are consumed by what I overheard, the betrayal, and the raw anger bubbling within me. I can't concentrate on work. I call Sam, the private investigator, and ask him to dig deeper into Greg's life. I need everything you can find on him. Leave no stone unturned, I instruct. Consider it done, Sam replies. His voice is gruff, seasoned with years of experience in digging up dirt. In the evening, I return home, and Emma tries to talk to me again. Jack, please, we need to discuss this, she pleads, tears in her eyes. But I brush past her, cold and distant. We have nothing to discuss, I say sharply. Just stay out of my way. For the next few days, I live in a state of tense detachment. I barely speak to Emma, and every interaction is laced with bitterness. Sam calls me one evening with new information. Greg's got a history of shady dealings, he says. There's evidence of embezzlement and fraud. He's been skimming money from his company for years. Perfect, I mutter, a dark thrill coursing through me. Keep digging. I need everything. With this new information, I formulate a plan. I need to set a trap that will destroy Greg and ensure Emma gets caught in the fallout. I begin by forging a paper trail, linking Emma and Greg to fraudulent activities. It takes weeks of meticulous work, but the thought of their downfall keeps me going. One evening, Emma approaches me, a desperate look in her eyes. Jack, we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through our issues, she says, her voice trembling. I look at her, feeling a twisted mix of pity and contempt. It's too late for that, Emma. You've made your choice. Her tears flow freely, but I turn away, unable to let her see any weakness. My resolve hardens. I will see this through to the end. The next day, I set up an anonymous tip to the police and Greg's employer. I provide them with all the evidence Sam and I have gathered. It's enough to start a full-blown investigation. I watch from a distance as the police raid Greg's office, his face plastered across the news. He's arrested, and the media swarms the story, exposing every dirty detail of his crimes. Emma is in shock. She calls me, her voice frantic. Jack, did you do this? Did you set him up? I feign ignorance. I don't know what you're talking about, Emma. Maybe Greg wasn't as innocent as you thought? She hangs up, and I feel a cold satisfaction. The first part of my plan is complete, but I know it's not over yet. Emma is implicated in the scandal, and the police start questioning her. They don't have enough evidence to arrest her, but her reputation is in tatters. Our neighbors whisper, and her friends distance themselves. One evening, as I sit in my study, Emma barges in, her face pale and drawn. Jack, we need to talk, she says, her voice cracking. About what? I ask, not looking up from my laptop. About us, about this mess. You can't seriously think we can go on like this, she says, desperation in her tone. I finally look at her, my gaze cold and unyielding. You're right, we can't. I've already filed for divorce. Her face crumples, and she sinks into a chair. Please, Jack, I'm begging you. We can find a way to fix this. There's nothing left to fix, Emma. You destroyed everything, I say, my voice emotionless. The days turn into weeks, and the investigation into Greg's activities intensifies. Emma is called in for questioning repeatedly, and each time she returns home more broken than before. I maintain my distance, my heart hardened against her pleas. One night, I follow her again. She meets Greg's lawyer at a dimly lit bar. I sit a few tables away, listening in on their conversation. They discuss strategies, trying to find a way out of the legal quagmire. I snap a few pictures and record their conversation, adding more fuel to the fire. Back home, I review the recordings, feeling a dark sense of triumph. Emma's desperation is palpable, and Greg's lawyer is grasping at straws. I compile the new evidence and send it to the police anonymously. The noose tightens around their necks. Emma confronts me the next morning, her eyes red from crying. "Jack, why are you doing this? I know you're behind all of it. Why?" "Why?" I echo, my voice cold. "Because you betrayed me, Emma. You and Greg thought you could get away with it, but you were wrong." "I'm sorry, Jack. I'm so sorry," she sobs, collapsing at my feet. "I made a mistake. Please, I'll do anything to make it right." "It's too late for apologies," I say, stepping over her. "You've made your bed, now lie in it." As the trial approaches, the tension in the house is unbearable. Emma's lawyer advises her to plead guilty to lesser charges, hoping for a lighter sentence. She's a wreck, barely eating or sleeping. I watch her disintegrate, feeling a twisted sense of justice. The trial is a media circus. Reporters swarm the courthouse, and every detail is scrutinized in the press. I sit in the gallery, watching as Emma and Greg are paraded before the judge. Their faces are pale, their eyes hollow. The prosecution lays out the evidence meticulously, painting a damning picture of greed and betrayal. Emma takes the stand, her voice trembling. She tries to explain, to justify her actions, but it's clear she's out of her depth. The cross-examination is brutal, tearing apart her flimsy defenses. Greg fares no better, his arrogance stripped away under the relentless questioning. The jury deliberates for only a few hours before returning with a guilty verdict. Emma and Greg are sentenced to years in prison. The judge's gavel falls, sealing their fate. I feel a grim satisfaction, knowing they are finally paying for their betrayal. As Emma is led away in handcuffs, she looks at me, her eyes filled with sorrow and regret. For a moment, I feel a pang of guilt, but I quickly push it aside. This is what she deserves. This is the price of betrayal. I walk out of the courthouse, the sun setting behind me. The chapter of my life with Emma is closed, but the scars remain. I've won, but the victory feels hollow. Revenge has consumed me, leaving a void where my heart used to be. I decide to leave the city, to start anew somewhere far away from the memories of betrayal and vengeance. I sell the house, liquidate my remaining assets, and disappear into the crowd. I take on a new identity, determined to leave my past behind. In my new city, I try to rebuild my life. I find a modest apartment, get a job under a false name, and attempt to move forward. But the past lingers, haunting my thoughts. I avoid relationships, wary of trust and intimacy. The pain of Emma's betrayal has left me scarred, and I fear opening myself up to anyone again. One night I sit in a quiet bar, nursing a drink. A woman sits next to me, striking up a conversation. Her name is Sarah, and she has a warmth and kindness that draws me in. For the first time in months, I feel a flicker of hope. We talk for hours, and I find myself opening up, sharing pieces of my story. As the night wears on, we end up in my apartment. The encounter is both tender and intense, a mixture of need and vulnerability. Her touch is soothing, her presence a balm to my wounded soul. For a brief moment, I forget the pain, the betrayal, and the vengeance. In the morning, Sarah lies beside me, her breathing steady and calm. I watch her sleep, feeling a strange sense of peace. I realize that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for redemption, for a new beginning. But as I step out onto the balcony, the weight of my past returns. I know the road ahead won't be easy. The shadows of betrayal and revenge will always linger. But for the first time, I'm willing to try. I'm ready to face the future, one step at a time. As I walk back inside, Sarah stirs, smiling up at me. "Good morning," she says, her voice soft and warm. "Good morning," I reply, feeling a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for a new beginning. The weeks after the trial blur together in a haze of guilt and relief. Emma and Greg are behind bars, and I've left the city to start anew. I should feel vindicated, but an emptiness gnaws at me. My revenge was complete, but the satisfaction I craved remains elusive. I settle into my new life under a false name, finding a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. I take a job at a local hardware store, blending into the mundane routine. Days turn into weeks, and slowly I start to rebuild. Yet, the shadows of my past are always with me. One evening, I return home to find a letter slipped under my door. My heart races as I pick it up, recognizing the familiar handwriting. Emma. I tear it open, scanning the words. She pleads for forgiveness, recounting the pain of her imprisonment. She writes about how she realizes the depth of her betrayal, begging for a chance to make things right. I crumple the letter and toss it aside, but her words linger in my mind, stirring old wounds. I meet Sarah at the bar again. Her warmth and kindness have become a lifeline. We talk for hours, and she shares pieces of her past, her own struggles, her own pain. There's a connection between us, something real and comforting. We end up back at my apartment, the night unfolding in a mix of tenderness and passion. As Sarah sleeps beside me, I lie awake, grappling with my emotions. Her presence soothes me, but the guilt remains. I know I need to find a way to confront my past, to find closure. I slip out of bed, stepping onto the balcony. The city lights stretch out below me, a reminder of the life I've left behind. The next morning, I make a decision. I need to see Emma. I need to confront her, to find some semblance of peace. I tell Sarah I have to leave town for a few days, and she nods, understanding but concerned. "Be careful," she says, kissing me softly. I drive back to the city, my mind racing with memories and regrets. The prison looms ahead, a stark reminder of the consequences of our actions. I check in, going through the rigorous security procedures. Finally, I'm led to a small visiting room, the walls cold and sterile. Emma enters, looking gaunt and weary. Her eyes widen when she sees me, and for a moment, we just stare at each other. She sits down across from me, her hands trembling. "Jack," she whispers, tears welling up in her eyes. "Emma," I reply, my voice flat. "Why did you write to me?" "I had to," she says, her voice breaking. "I needed to tell you how sorry I am. I know I hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself for what I did." Her words are a punch to the gut, reopening old wounds. "You destroyed everything, Emma. Our life, our trust. Why?" She sobs, her tears flowing freely. "I don't know. I was stupid, selfish. I thought I wanted something more, but I didn't realize what I was throwing away." I feel a twisted sense of satisfaction seeing her like this, but also a deep sorrow. "It's too late for apologies. We can't go back." "I know," she says, wiping her eyes. "But I needed you to hear it. I needed you to know that I'm paying for my mistakes every day, and I'll keep paying for the rest of my life." We sit in silence for a while, the weight of our past hanging heavy between us. Finally, I stand up, ready to leave. "Goodbye, Emma," I say, turning away. "Goodbye, Jack," she whispers, her voice filled with sorrow and regret. I drive back to my new city, the visit leaving me more unsettled than before. I realize that seeing Emma didn't bring the closure I hoped for. Instead, it stirred up a maelstrom of emotions. I need to find a way to move forward, to let go of the past. Sarah senses my turmoil when I return. She doesn't push me to talk, but her presence is a comfort. We spend the evening together, her warmth slowly chipping away at the icy walls around my heart. That night, our lovemaking is intense, a desperate attempt to drown out the pain and guilt. Her touch soothes me, Her whispers of comfort echo in my mind as we collapse into each other. In the morning, I wake up with a sense of resolve. I need to start rebuilding my life in earnest. I can't keep running from my past, but I also can't let it define me. I decide to take on more responsibilities at work, immersing myself in the routine. The days are long and tiring, but they keep my mind occupied. One day, Sam, the private investigator, calls me. His voice is gruff, as always, but there's an urgency to it. "Jack, we need to talk. I found something." My heart races. "What is it?" "Meet me at the usual spot," he says before hanging up. I drive to the small diner where we usually meet. Sam is waiting in a corner booth, a file in front of him. He slides it over as I sit down. "You're not gonna like this," he says, his tone serious. I open the file, my eyes scanning the contents. It's more information about Greg, but this time it's about his connections in prison. He's made some powerful enemies, and there are rumors about a hit being put out on him. My stomach churns as I read the details. "Why are you telling me this?" I ask, my voice tight. "Thought you should know," Sam replies. "You're tangled up in this mess, whether you like it or not." I nod, closing the file. "Thanks, Sam." He leaves, and I sit there, the weight of the new information pressing down on me. I realize that my actions have set off a chain of events I can't control. The desire for revenge has led to this, and now it's spiraling out of control. I return home, my mind racing. Sarah senses my unease and pulls me into a hug. "Whatever it is, we'll get through it," she whispers. I hold her close, finding solace in her warmth. "I hope so," I murmur, my thoughts a tangled mess. Days turn into weeks, and I try to focus on building a new life. But the news of Greg's situation keeps gnawing at me. One night, Sarah and I sit on the balcony, the city lights stretching out below us. "What's on your mind?" she asks, her voice gentle. I hesitate, then decide to tell her everything: the affair, the revenge, the trial. She listens quietly, her expression a mix of shock and concern. "You've been through so much," she says softly. "But you're not alone anymore." Her words touch me deeply. "I know. Thank you, Sarah." We sit in silence, the night air cool against our skin. I realize that for the first time, I feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to move forward. The path ahead won't be easy, but with Sarah by my side, I feel a renewed sense of strength. The next morning, I wake up with a new sense of purpose. I decide to confront my past head-on. I contact a lawyer, seeking advice on how to ensure my actions don't come back to haunt me. He's thorough and professional, helping me navigate the legal complexities. With his help, I start the process of legally changing my identity. It's a long and arduous journey, but each step brings me closer to a fresh start. I inform my employer, who surprisingly supports my decision, understanding the need for a clean slate. Sarah stands by me through it all, her unwavering support a constant source of strength. Our relationship deepens, and I start to see a future with her. The shadows of my past still linger, but they no longer have the same hold over me. As the final paperwork comes through, I feel a sense of liberation. The burden of my old life lifts, replaced by the promise of new beginnings. I stand on the balcony with Sarah, watching the sunrise. The light spreads across the city, a symbol of hope and renewal. "Here's to new beginnings," I say, raising a cup of coffee and a toast. "To new beginnings," Sarah echoes, her smile bright and genuine. In that moment, I feel a surge of gratitude. The journey has been long and painful, but it's led me here. I'm ready to embrace the future, to build a life filled with trust, love, and hope. The road ahead is still uncertain, but I'm no longer afraid. With Sarah by my side, I know I can face whatever comes next. With my new identity legally established, I feel like I'm starting to breathe again. The weight of my past is still there, but it's lighter now, easier to carry. My mornings begin with a sense of purpose. Sarah's presence is my anchor, and together we start to build something real. Work at the hardware store becomes a welcome routine. I take on more responsibilities, earning the trust of my boss and coworkers. They know me as Mike now, a man with a past he doesn't talk about. They respect my privacy, and I appreciate their understanding. One afternoon, a police officer walks into the store. My heart skips a beat, but I keep my composure. He's just here for some supplies. I help him find what he needs, my hands steady, my voice calm. It's a small victory, but it feels significant. I can face my fears without crumbling. At home, Sarah and I fall into a comfortable rhythm. We cook dinner together, sharing stories and laughter. Our relationship deepens, the intimacy we share becoming a vital part of my healing. One night, after a particularly stressful day, we lie in bed, her body warm against mine. "I'm proud of you," she whispers, her fingers tracing patterns on my chest. "You've come so far." "I couldn't have done it without you," I reply, kissing her forehead. Her touch soothes me, her presence a balm for my wounded soul. We make love, the connection between us intense and healing. Her body moves with mine, our breaths synchronized. It's not just about passion, it's about trust and vulnerability. In those moments, I feel truly alive, the shadows of my past fading away. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of determination. I need to tie up the last loose ends to ensure that my past doesn't come back to haunt me. I meet with my lawyer again, going over the final details of my new identity. He reassures me that everything is solid, that I'm legally a new person. "You've done everything right," he says, his tone professional yet kind. "You can move forward without fear." I thank him, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. As I walk out of his office, I feel a sense of closure. The past is finally behind me. Now, it's time to focus on the future. Sarah and I decide to take a trip to the countryside. We need a break from the city, a chance to reconnect with nature and each other. We rent a small cabin by a lake, the air fresh and invigorating. It's a perfect escape, a chance to leave everything behind. We spend our days hiking, fishing, and exploring the woods. At night, we sit by the fireplace, the warmth and crackle of the flames adding to the coziness. One evening, as we sit on the porch, watching the stars, Sarah takes my hand. "I'm happy we're here," she says, her voice soft. "I feel like we're truly starting over." "Me too," I reply, squeezing her hand. "This is exactly what we needed." As we talk, I realize how far I've come. The anger and bitterness that once consumed me have lessened. There's still a scar, a reminder of what I went through, but it doesn't define me anymore. I'm healing, slowly but surely. On our last night at the cabin, Sarah surprises me with a special dinner. She cooks my favorite meal, the aroma filling the cabin. We sit down to eat, the candlelight casting a warm glow. "To new beginnings," she says, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," I echo, feeling a surge of hope and gratitude. After dinner, we take a walk by the lake. The moonlight reflects off the water, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. We sit on a fallen log, the silence of the night surrounding us. Sarah leans her head on my shoulder, and I wrap my arm around her. "I love you," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I love you too," I reply, my heart full. The trip rejuvenates us, and when we return to the city, we're ready to face whatever comes next. Life settles into a new normal, and for the first time in a long while, I feel a sense of peace. I found a balance between acknowledging my past and embracing my future. One day I receive a call from Sam. His voice is urgent, a tone I haven't heard from him before. "Mike, we need to meet. It's important." My heart sinks. "What is it?" "Just meet me at the diner," he says before hanging up. I drive to the diner, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrive, Sam is already there, a grave look on his face. He slides a newspaper across the table. The headline reads, "Inmate Murdered in Prison Riot." My eyes widen as I see Greg's name. "They found him dead this morning," Sam says, his voice low. Looks like a hit. I feel a mix of shock and guilt. Why are you telling me this? You need to be careful, Mike. This could complicate things. People might start asking questions. I nod, my mind spinning. Thanks for the heads up, Sam. As I drive home, I feel a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Greg's death is a reminder of the dark path I took. I know I need to stay vigilant to protect the life I've built. But the news also reinforces my resolve to move forward, to leave the past where it belongs. When I get home, Sarah senses my unease. What's wrong? She asks, her concern evident. I tell her about Greg's death, about Sam's warning. She listens quietly, then takes my hand. We'll get through this together, she says firmly. You're not alone. Her words give me strength. We make a plan to ensure our safety, to keep our new life intact. We're cautious, but we refuse to let fear dictate our actions. Together, we're stronger. As time passes, the threat of Greg's past diminishes. Life goes on, and we continue to build our future. I find fulfillment in my work, in the small moments of joy with Sarah. We talk about starting a family, about the dreams we have for our future. One evening, Sarah and I sit on the balcony, watching the sunset. The sky is a canvas of vibrant colors, a beautiful reminder of life's potential. I'm proud of you, she says, her eyes reflecting the sunset's glow. You've come so far. I smile, feeling a deep sense of contentment. We've come far together. In that moment, I realized that I've finally found what I was looking for. Not revenge, not retribution, but peace. The journey was long and painful, but it led me to a place of hope and possibility. With Sarah by my side, I'm ready to embrace the future, to face whatever comes next with courage and resilience. The past is a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I'm free. The past few months have been a roller coaster of emotions. Sarah and I have found a rhythm, a sense of normalcy in our chaotic lives, but the shadows of my past are never far. Greg's death hangs over me like a dark cloud, and I know I'm not free yet. One evening, Sarah and I are having dinner when my phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. I answer cautiously. Hello? Mr. Carter? A gruff voice asks, using my old name. My blood runs cold. This is Detective Miller. We need to talk about Greg Thompson's death. Panic surges through me. I don't know anything about that, I stammer. We have reason to believe you do. Meet me at the precinct tomorrow at 10, he says, then hangs up before I can respond. I put the phone down, my hands trembling. Sarah looks at me, concern etched on her face. What's wrong? I explain the call, my voice shaking. They think I'm involved in Greg's death. Sarah reaches across the table, taking my hand. We'll get through this. You need to stay calm and get a lawyer. The next morning I meet with my lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Lisa. You need to cooperate, but don't say anything without me present, she advises. They'll try to trip you up. At the precinct, Detective Miller is waiting. He's a tall, imposing man with a stern expression. Lisa and I sit across from him in a small, windowless room. The tension is palpable. Mr. Carter, or should I say Mr. Smith, Miller begins, referencing my new identity. We know about your past, and we know you had a motive to want Greg dead. I didn't kill him, I say firmly. I've been trying to start over. Miller leans forward, his eyes narrowing. You framed him for embezzlement. Don't deny it. We have proof. I glance at Lisa, who gives me a reassuring nod. I had no choice. He was destroying my life, but I didn't want him dead. Miller smirks. Convenient story. You disappeared right after the trial. Why? I needed a fresh start. My life was in ruins, I say, my voice shaking. I didn't know he'd be killed. The interrogation continues for hours, Miller pressing me for details, trying to break me. Lisa is a rock, objecting when necessary, guiding me through the legal minefield. Finally, Miller sighs, leaning back in his chair. We'll be watching you, Mr. Smith. Don't think this is over. I leave the precinct, drained but relieved. Lisa assures me they don't have enough to charge me, but the threat is real. I need to be careful. At home, I collapse onto the couch, my mind racing. Sarah sits beside me, her presence a comfort. "We'll get through this," she says softly, her hand on my shoulder. "I'm not sure," I whisper, my voice filled with doubt. This feels like a nightmare that won't end. Days turn into weeks, and the investigation hangs over me like a dark cloud. I try to focus on work, on building a life with Sarah, but it's always there, lurking in the background. Sarah is my rock, her love and support keeping me grounded. One night, I wake up in a cold sweat, a nightmare about the trial still fresh in my mind. I slip out of bed, needing air. I stand on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below. The weight of everything feels unbearable. Sarah joins me, wrapping her arms around me. "You're not alone," she whispers. "We'll face this together." Her words are a balm, and I hold her close, drawing strength from her. "I don't know what I'd do without you," I admit. "You'll never have to find out," she says, kissing me softly. As the investigation drags on, I realize I need to take control. I can't let fear dictate my life. I decide to confront Detective Miller to clear my name once and for all. Lisa is hesitant but supports my decision. I arrange a meeting at the precinct. Miller greets me with a skeptical look. "Back for more, Mr. Smith?" "I want to clear my name," I say firmly. "I didn't kill Greg, and I'm tired of living in fear." Miller leans back, crossing his arms. "Convince me." I take a deep breath, recounting everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the trial. I don't hold back, laying it all out. Miller listens, his expression unreadable. When I finish, there's a long silence. "Why should I believe you?" he asks finally. "Because it's the truth," I say, meeting his gaze. "I made mistakes, but I'm not a murderer." Miller studies me for a long moment. "I'll look into it, but don't get your hopes up." I leave the precinct feeling a mix of relief and dread. I've done all I can. Now it's up to Miller to find the real killer. Days pass with no word. I try to focus on the present, on building a life with Sarah. We talk about the future, about starting a family. It gives me hope, something to look forward to. Then, one evening, I get a call from Miller. "We found new evidence. You're off the hook." The relief is overwhelming. I thank him, hanging up with a shaky breath. Sarah hugs me tightly, tears of joy in her eyes. "It's over," she whispers. I nod, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It's finally over. With the investigation behind me, I can truly move forward. Sarah and I plan our future, our dreams of a family becoming more real. I find a sense of peace I never thought possible. One night, as we lie in bed, I hold her close, our bodies entwined. "Thank you for standing by me," I say, my voice filled with gratitude. "Always," she replies, her touch gentle and loving. We make love, the connection between us deeper than ever. It's not just about passion, it's about trust, about building something lasting. As we lie together, I realize I've found what I was searching for. Not revenge, but love. Not retribution, but peace. The days blend into a routine filled with joy and hope. We talk about buying a house, about starting a family. Life feels full of possibilities, the shadows of the past fading into the background. One morning, I get a letter from Emma. She's been released on parole, her sentence reduced for good behavior. She writes about her plans to start over, to make amends. She doesn't ask for forgiveness, only for a chance to move forward. I show the letter to Sarah, her expression thoughtful. "What are you going to do?" she asks. "I don't know," I admit. I want to forgive her, but it's hard. Sarah takes my hand, her touch reassuring. "Forgiveness is a process. Take your time." I decide to meet Emma to hear her out. We meet at a small cafe, the tension palpable. She looks different, older, more worn. "Thank you for meeting me," she says, her voice soft. I needed closure, I reply. For both of us. She nods, tears in her eyes. I'm truly sorry for everything. I've paid for my mistakes and I'm trying to be a better person. I feel a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, but also a sense of release. I can't forget what happened, but I'm trying to move forward. We talk for a while, sharing our struggles and our hopes for the future. It's not easy, but it feels necessary. As we part ways, I feel a sense of closure. The past is finally behind me. At home, Sarah waits for me, her presence a comfort. How did it go? She asks, her voice gentle. It was hard, but I needed it, I reply. I think I can finally move on. We sit together, holding hands, the future stretching out before us. For the first time, I feel truly free. The past is a part of me, but it no longer defines me. With Sarah by my side, I'm ready to embrace whatever comes next. Life is full of possibilities, and I'm ready to seize them. The road ahead won't be easy, but I know I'm not alone. Together, we can face anything. The journey has been long and painful, but it's led me to a place of hope and peace. As the sun sets, casting a golden glow over the city, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. I've found my way through the darkness, and now I'm ready to embrace the light. The future is ours, and I'm ready to face it with courage and hope. As I sit on the balcony with Sarah, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, I reflect on the journey that brought me here. The pain, the betrayal, the revenge, it all feels like a distant nightmare. The investigation is over, Emma is out on parole, and Greg is dead. It's a strange feeling, this mix of relief and sadness, but also a new sense of hope. Are you okay? Sarah asks, her hand warm in mine. I think so, I say, looking into her eyes. For the first time in a long while, I feel like I can breathe. She smiles, squeezing my hand. We've come a long way. We sit in comfortable silence, the cool night air wrapping around us. The past no longer holds the same power over me. I'm ready to let it go, to focus on the future. We've been talking about buying a house, starting a family. It's time to make those dreams a reality. The next morning, we visit a realtor. Sarah is excited, her eyes sparkling as we tour different houses. We find a charming place on the outskirts of the city, with a big yard and lots of natural light. It feels like home the moment we step inside. This is it, Sarah says, her voice filled with certainty. I nod, feeling the same. This is our home. We move in a few weeks later, the process smooth and uneventful. It's a fresh start, a new chapter. We paint the walls, decorate the rooms, and fill the house with laughter and love. The shadows of the past fade, replaced by the warmth of our new life together. One evening, as we sit by the fireplace, Sarah brings up the idea of starting a family. I think it's time, she says, her voice soft but determined. I take her hand, my heart swelling with love. I think so too. The months pass, filled with the joy and anticipation of our growing family. Sarah and I are closer than ever, our bond strengthened by everything we've been through. We're building something beautiful, something lasting. One day, I receive a letter from Emma. She's moving to a different state, hoping to start fresh. She writes about her plans, her hopes for the future. There's a sense of finality in her words, a recognition that our paths have finally diverged for good. I show the letter to Sarah, who reads it quietly. How do you feel? She asks, looking up at me. Relieved, I say honestly, and ready to move on. We make love that night, the connection between us deep and passionate. It's a celebration of our journey, of the life we're building together. Sarah's touch is tender, her whispers of love echoing in my mind as we come together, our bodies and souls intertwined. As we lie in each other's arms, I feel a sense of peace. The past is behind us, the future bright with promise. We're ready for whatever comes next. The weeks turn into months, and our life continues to blossom. Sarah's pregnancy brings a new kind of joy. and I find myself marveling at the changes in her, in us. We prepare for the arrival of our child, our hearts full of love and hope. One evening, as we sit on the porch, watching the sunset, I think about the journey that brought us here. The trials, the pain, the moments of darkness, they all led to this. I'm grateful for the lessons, for the strength I found in the struggle. We've come so far, I say, my voice filled with wonder. Sarah leans her head on my shoulder, her hand resting on her growing belly. And we have so much to look forward to. I kiss her softly, feeling the weight of the past lift completely. The future is ours, filled with endless possibilities. I'm ready to embrace it, to build a life of love and happiness with Sarah and our child. As the sun sets, casting a golden glow over our home, I feel a deep sense of gratitude. I've found my way through the darkness, and now I'm ready to embrace the light. The future is bright, and I'm ready to face it with courage and hope, knowing that with Sarah by my side, anything is possible. Our child is born on a crisp autumn morning, a beautiful baby girl. We name her Grace, a symbol of the grace that brought us through our darkest times to this moment of pure joy. Holding her in my arms, I feel a love so profound it takes my breath away. This is what I fought for, what I dreamed of, a future filled with love, with family, with hope. As I look at Sarah, exhausted but radiant, I know that everything we've been through has led us to this. The pain, the betrayal, the trials, they all brought us here, to this moment of perfect, unending love. Thank you, I whisper to Sarah, tears in my eyes, for everything. She smiles, her eyes shining with tears of her own. We did it together. We did, and we will continue to face the future together, with all its challenges and joys. The past is a part of us, but it no longer defines us. We are stronger, more resilient, and ready for whatever comes next. As I stand on the porch, watching the sun rise over our home, I feel a profound sense of peace. The journey has been long and painful, but it led me here, to a life filled with love and hope. The future is bright, and I'm ready to embrace it, with Sarah and Grace by my side.